everybody's like, you know. But just a little bit about myself. Let's see, I'm gonna share my journey with you real quick. Because if I can tell you a little bit about me, then you'll know a little bit about what I do, why I do it, and my presentation will speak for itself. I started with the Department of Corrections in 1992. My background, my bachelor's degree is in criminal justice, and you guys can't hear me? No. My background is in criminal justice, and I got into the field when I moved here from New York, and I took a job with the Department of Corrections, Community Corrections, as an adult probation officer. I did that for a little bit, a while, and realized I needed to change. Moved on to what was called the Stafford Detention Center. And at that time, it was a program for men who were on probation, and they were housed at the old Camp 21. I don't know if anyone knows where that is. But they had probation officers in this program to help men with programming so that they didn't really have to go to prison. Got a little bored with that, and went to one of our central regional offices as a transition specialist. I was probably one of the first 4 transition specialists that the Department of Corrections hired. And my role there was to help people who were coming out of prison. They were usually people who spent a long time in prison. How to reacclimate into the communities. Re-entry was really big, but no one really called it re-entry. We dealt with a lot of folks who were sex offenders. No one wants to house a sex offender. So we had to work on getting them housing and jobs and so forth. So that was a big task in my life and a big reality check for me, because I found out that people coming out of prison, there wasn't a lot. And I heard that common theme. There wasn't a lot of services, not a lot for people who were trying to really get it right. So from there, I went back into the Adult Probation and Parole Office, and as a senior officer, and I actually was a probation officer for Fredericksburg, District 21, and then District 41, Ashland, and got to the point where things just seemed to be the same. And common theme that I often heard from adults was, if I just got it right, if I could have just gotten it right when I was a young child, if I could have just finished my schooling, if I could have just listened to that teacher, if I could have listened to that adult that was trying to keep me in school, I think I would have changed something in my life. So I decided to go to this midlife crisis, I guess. I decided to go to a job fair, and that was offered through the county, sponsoring county schools, and I met one of their HR folks that had a little conversation with me, and she said, "You would be a great ED teacher." Anyone know what an ED teacher is? Yeah. I said, "What is an ED teacher?" Now, mind you, I had kids who were in Spotsylvania County school system, and but I never heard of an ED teacher. So she went on to explain to me, well, that's a special education teacher who works with students with emotional disturbance. That was the word back then. So I said, okay, I know what that is. Those are the kids that no one wants to deal with. So she went on to explain to me why. You're a probation officer, you dealt with the big, people who get in trouble. I'm sure you can handle kids. I thought about it, went home, talked to my husband about it. We thought about it. went on for a few months, and during that summer, I decided to give her a call. And I applied for Spotsylvania County Public Schools as an ED teacher. Well, I was interviewed and hired in all of 1 hour. That should have been my first clue. So long story short, that started my journey in education. I went back to school, got my teaching license, got my master's, continued to get a doctorate. And someone said, I believe it was Mr. Hilton, said earlier that education is what made the change. I'm here because education, I know, makes the change. I am, just a little bit about me, I am a wife. I'm married to that wonderful big guy back there. I told him he can't talk or ask questions. I am a mother. All 3 of my children, I have 2 that graduated from Spotsylvania County Public Schools who are doing tremendously well, and I have 1 right now in high school. We have, where did this thing go? That's Boomer. Boomer is part of our family, and he has taken over our household. But I want to just say this to you before I move on to my presentation. Working as a probation or parole officer and really hearing the stories of people coming out of incarceration touched me. I mean, seriously did something to me. My father worked, anyone here Rikers Island?
Yep.
My father was a CO. He was a captain for, I want to say it was probably about 38 years. And I, as a young girl, listened to his stories about people being locked up. I mean, he was there when David Berkowitz, son of Sam, was there.
Wow.
I could go on and on and on to some real high-profile folks. But I remember my dad always coming home and never saying anything bad about anyone, even son of Sam. You know, he would always talk about their stories. And so I think that just kind of stayed in my mind, stayed in my heart. Maybe it was a calling, I don't know. But listening to people tell me as adults, if I had just stuck with education, stayed in school. So the powers that be guided me from classroom instruction to the Juvenile Detention Center, where I'm a principal at this time. And I guess I did a full circle, and maybe that was just the preparation for what I do now. But our education program is run, even though, and one of my teachers is here, Ms. Luffy, we are employed by the Department of Corrections, by the Department of Education. I'm crossing my lines here. State-operated programs. So even though we are Spotsylvania County employees, we are really mandated and fully funded by the Department of Education. And I've learned so much about kids. I've learned so much about the parents. I've learned so much about kids who sometimes in a very unfortunate way get into the system. And so there's some probation officers here who know me. We work really hard to revamp the education that the kids get at the Juvenile Detention Center, and I'll explain why. So one of the things that I do, that I want us to really think about is discipline. Does it equal or does it not equal punishment? And so you guys have been sitting for a while, and so what I'm going to task you to do is to take about 3 or 4 minutes to kind of turn to your neighbor. And I want everybody to get up, and I'm going to put on a little music for you because